There should be sound now. There will most definitely be sound now. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you for letting me know. Sometimes that happens, but there's sound now. So welcome to the live, everybody. Took a few days off, was traveling, went to visit my sister, but we have a lot to talk about today. No worries if this ends up being a smaller audience today because, like I said, a few days off, the momentum had slowed a little bit, but we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, last week was a big week. Got to speak with the governor. That was awesome. Now, this week, no major interviews lined up, but that doesn't mean the news stops. We have so much to cover this week. Please let me tell everybody right now that we are live. And I think what I'll do is go live on TikTok as well, so that people are aware about the live. But yeah, so today we are definitely going to talk about Donald Trump's failure to get a peace deal done between Ukraine and Russia. What did he say to President Putin that gave him the idea that Putin wanted to cut a deal for Trump? That's a little bit concerning. Definitely has me a little bit concerned. And what else did Zelensky say to Trump that got Trump thinking about possibly suspending elections? Because if you heard during their Oval Office meeting, Trump said to Zelensky, well, if you haven't had elections because your country's at war, that seems like a pretty good idea. Maybe I should do the same. Donald Trump literally said that. Don't think it couldn't happen, because it could. Let me know if you're hearing me clearly, by the way, because I know we had a sound issue at the top of the show, but should be good now, should be great now. So if that changes, please let me know. These past few shows, I was going live more in the morning. This is more of an afternoon episode, trying to figure out, what time is best for everybody to watch. But happy to be live right now. Let's give it another minute, let people trickle in. I want to make sure that everybody has the link. And thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning into today's edition of the Progressive Pulse. And we will get this started in just a minute now. Thanks for being here. What do you say, Bubba? People still vote for rich politician actors that don't care about us. They're just puppet pushing agendas to go higher up. Yeah, you have a good point. You have a good point. All right, so, yes, Caleb. Who else is excited for the NFL? It's going to be awesome. 2 weeks from now, we'll be watching the Bears play football. It's going to be exciting. All right, let's take a look right now at... Oop, wrong tab. Oop. That was weird. Let me see why that's doing that. Where even is that tab? I see. What the frick is that? Timeout. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for being here. Why? Oh, that's so weird. Okay. The screen share was outdated. Let's try that again. Wrong. Wrong. How do I solve that? No. Time out. Time out. Time out. Mayday. I got to take it into studio mode. There we go. Okay, let's add macOS screen capture. This is the first time I've encountered a major error. So let's see if I can fix that. Cool. Perfect. Okay. That should have fixed it. Timeout, sorry. Had an error. Don't know how to fix that. All right, let's just see if this works. Okay, there we go. Everybody see that? No, where am I? Huh. Where did I go? We have an issue. I disappeared. Huh, this is bad. I wish Jordan was here to help me. Be right back, everybody. Timeout. Guess what, folks? We're coming back. We don't give up. Never quit. Never surrender. We are live. Sorry for the delay. I really appreciate your patience. Sorry for the technical errors. We had an issue where just now it was showing an outdated version of my screen. Given this is only the 10th stream I've done, I hope we can all be a little patient. I appreciate it. That was a little scary. Let's make sure this works now. Kaboom. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Caroline Leavitt today reacted to Donald Trump's failure of a meeting that he had with Vladimir Zelensky. It was a major fail because, Volodymyr. It was a failure because now the war is only likely to be prolonged. There doesn't seem to be any real solution to this mess. My phone is off the Wi-Fi. My phone's off the Wi-Fi. Let's take a look at this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. How are you? Good to see all of you.
Close other apps on computer. Time out. I appreciate the thought. It's a good thought. Listen to Jordan. I am listening to Jordan.
What we've witnessed President Trump accomplish.
Time out. Okay, it's coming in good. Donald Trump failed so bad to get a peace deal done, he sent his little propaganda minion out today to try and deflect and distract. Take a listen to what she had to say this morning.
Over the last few days has been nothing short of remarkable. We are now 3.5 years into the war between Russia and Ukraine, a brutal conflict that has claimed hundreds of thousands of Russian and Ukrainian lives and cost trillions of dollars. The weakness and incompetence of Joe Biden foolishly allowed the killing to start in the first place. Until President Trump returned to office in January, the bloody and broken Biden status quo was to endlessly force American taxpayers to fund Ukraine no matter the cost, no matter how long it takes, and no matter how many lives were lost. There is no denying that Biden's America Last foreign policy moved the world further away from peace. President Trump rejected that failed approach and instead, over the last 7 months, has relentlessly pursued peace throughout his second term. And thanks to President Trump's efforts, we finally have movement after years of deadly gridlock. On Friday, as you all know, many of you were there, President Trump hosted Russian President Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska, for a bilateral meeting. This was the first time President Putin has been to the United States since 2015, and the first time he has met with an American president in years. President Putin publicly confirmed what President Trump has said all along. The war between Russia and Ukraine never would have started in the first place if President Trump were in office. This was always obvious to any person with a shred of common sense.
How is that obvious to anybody? Donald Trump has basically told Putin to do whatever the hell he wants. And you keep saying this is Biden's war and this war would have never started. Well, there's a good chance this war may never end with Donald Trump as president because everything he does is a major miscalculation. He's causing thousands of people to lose their lives every single week because Donald Trump is prolonging this war. He has given Putin all the leverage in this war. How does Putin get a red carpet entry to the United States of America? A war criminal, a known mass murderer. This guy is killing civilians in scores, and he gets a $1 million celebration, a great red carpet, a flyover when he comes to the United States of America. And what does Zelensky get? He gets berated because he wasn't wearing a suit. Whose side are we on? It's clear Donald Trump would rather take Putin and ride around in the car and fuel each other up and down versus our actual democratic ally in Europe, which is Ukraine.
Just look at what took place during the last 4 administrations. Under George W. Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. Under Barack Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under Joe Biden, Russia invaded Ukraine.
And under Donald Trump, Russia is taking more and more of Ukraine, and Donald Trump is willingly giving Russia parts of Ukraine that Russia hasn't even conquered yet. Think about that for a second. in the peace proposal that Donald Trump has agreed to, Russia would be able to take large swaths of Ukraine that they haven't even conquered yet, and their military is struggling to encroach further into Ukraine. But Donald Trump is trying to get the quickest deal done. He's trying to get the cheapest deal done because he's a cheap man, he's a failed president, and he knows that he's crumbling his own chances of helping the Republican Party survive in the midterm elections. I guarantee you what's going on right now in Trump's inner circle is, well, we need a win. We've completely dropped the ball on the Epstein files. The economy is in the toilet. So why don't we get this peace deal wrapped up between Ukraine and Russia so we can actually say we got something done that we promised, even though it's going to be a bad deal. It's not going to be a lasting deal if there is a deal at all. And it's also Donald Trump can go into the midterm saying he's the no new wars president. Well, you're the president right now, and this is a war that's happening. And by the way, the other day when Trump was speaking in the Oval Office, he said, once this war is over, I will have wrapped up all the wars. What about the fucking genocide that's taking place in Gaza right now? Not to mention all the people that are slaughtered in the West Bank. And Donald Trump has zero plan to create peace in the Middle East. He's basically told Netanyahu to create Trump Gaza.
But under President Trump, Russia did not invade nor take anything. President Trump is the only president this century, Republican or Democrat, who has held Russia in check and ensured peace in Europe. That's because Russia has always greatly respected President Trump and his peace through strength foreign policy approach. But overall, the bilateral talks in Alaska were very productive, and multiple key points were agreed to between the two leaders that truly opened up the door for phase 2 discussions, which took place yesterday here at the White House.
I'm sorry, what was so successful about it? Apparently, millions of taxpayer dollars were spent to do a little flyover. We gave a red carpet to a war criminal, which, by the way, is so fucking disgusting. No other country has normalized this behavior. Putin is not welcome in other Western nations because, like I said, he kills civilians in scores, literally every single week. Thousands of Ukrainians are getting blown up indiscriminately because Putin needs this war to continue. He knows this war is the one thing that's keeping him in power. This guy is not a democratically elected president of Russia. He's been president for decades. And by the way, there's no free press in Russia, and apparently not here in the US as well, because either you're allowed to ask a softball question that Caroline Leavitt will gladly tee up, or if you ask her any type of tough question, she'll slam you as being part of the fake news media because her poor little sensitive ego can't take the truth.
In 48 hours of that meeting in Anchorage, I may add. As you all know, there were many European leaders here, as well as Ukrainian President Zelensky.
By the way, if you're watching on TikTok right now, come watch on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. You can directly watch my screen. Appreciate it.
They all traveled here to meet with President Trump to maintain the momentum and work toward a lasting peace. Across the board, every leader credited President Trump for his decisive leadership that has reignited the dialogue in hopes of finally bringing this war to a peaceful conclusion. Two quotes in particular
It's so funny. Did you see Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted today? She's like, the press corps, she called it the press corps, not the press corps. They never ask tough questions anymore. That's why they're so fake. Yeah, I want to see more tough questions like your boyfriend, Mr. Brian Glenn, or whatever the hell his name is. He's the guy that went, how come you never wear a suit, Zelensky? How come you never wear a suit to the White House? I know your country's at war, but why don't you wear a little monkey suit when you come to the White House and you talk to our president? And this time he actually wore a suit because Zelensky is in a tough spot. He has to abide by what Trump is demanding because he's trying to kiss ass. He's trying to get a deal done. And this time Brian Glenn was like, I see you finally wore a suit. Thank you, man. And Zelensky's like, yeah, I changed, but you're wearing the same suit, you fucking dumbass. I like that. That was funny.
Capture the progress that was made and the optimism moving forward. Finnish President Alexander Stubb said, I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have had in the past 3.5 years. Again, that is the president of Finland, a country that shares a border with Russia. That's what we call the President Trump effect. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte also summed it up well. Without
the President Trump effect, today Home Depot said that the tariffs are causing their prices to skyrocket. That's the Trump effect, baby. Right now, the National Guard is terrorizing the people of Washington, D.C. I've seen videos of military going around neighborhood streets causing fear in American citizens. Trump effect, That's the Trump effect, baby. Well done, sir. You've done amazing. You too, Caroline. Keep getting those brownie points. I love it.
President Trump, this deadlock with Putin would not have been broken. He is the only one who could do this. Following the encouraging conversations yesterday, President Trump spoke with President Putin by phone, and he agreed to begin the next phase of the peace process, a meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky, which would be followed, if necessary, by a trilateral meeting between President Putin, President Zelensky, and President Trump. As the president said, Vice President Vance, Secretary Rubio, and Special Envoy Witkoff will continue to coordinate with Russia and Ukraine to make this happen as soon as possible. It's very important to remember that before President Trump's land...
J.D. Vance is such a loser, man. He's such a loser, such a disgrace to our country. J.D. Vance. That guy offers zero solutions. He's just a whiner. He's just a complainer. He just complains and complains, and he's a grifter. He wants you to think that he's part of middle America, that he's one of us, he's one of you. He's not. He's part of the swamp. He's part of the Epstein cover-up. He's part of the genocide that's taking place. He's part of the militarization of our streets, the abducting of American citizens. He's part of it. Just because he talks a little bit nicer than Trump and he's got a little baby face, don't be confused. He's part of it.
Landslide victory last November, there was no end in sight to this bloodshed. Now there may finally be light at the end of the tunnel and an opportunity for lasting peace. That's because President Trump is the peace president, and American leadership is back on the world stage. It should not be lost on anyone in this room that world leaders are coming right here to Washington, D.C. for help. While previous presidents have traveled halfway around the world to apologize for America, President Trump stands up for America, and he has firmly restored America's status as the undisputed leader of the free world. However, one thing that has absolutely not changed is the media's negative and downright false coverage of President Trump and his foreign policy accomplishments. From the beginning of this entire process, much of the left-wing media has been actively rooting against the President of the United States in the pursuit of peace. Initially...
How is that the case? Everybody wants peace. What the fuck is that spin? What a spin job by Caroline Leavitt. By the way, the media... Just because they're critical of Donald Trump's approach to peace doesn't mean they don't want peace. Certainly, there are some parties and some outlets in this country that don't want peace. It's called the military-industrial complex. The Republican Party never wants peace. They would love the war to continue. They would love the genocide to continue in Gaza. Donald Trump doesn't even really want peace. He just wants the Republicans to win the midterms.
The media ridiculously claimed that President Trump was somehow beholden to Russia for even agreeing to have a face-to-face discussion with President Putin inside of the United States.
He is beholden to Russia. That's what people need to understand. Russia owns his ass. Russia has something on Trump. Somebody commented on TikTok, they say 7 peace deals in 6 months. That is complete bullshit, my friend. By the way, Donald Trump said, oh, we had 6 peace deals done. So you don't even know what you're talking about. And the 6 peace deals or whatever, these are not major wars we're talking about. This is the war he said on day 1 he would solve. He said, I will get this war done. Now he's backtracking and he's trying to move the goalposts. He says, I thought this war would be the easiest. Turns out it's the hardest one. And he said, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, once I get this one done, there's going to be no more wars for me to solve. What the hell is going on in Gaza? You're the one telling Netanyahu, finish the job, do whatever you want. We'll give you billions and billions of dollars. Get the job done. How is that America first? How is that another peace deal? It's not.
The media said President Trump was making a grave mistake by, quote, legitimizing Putin. They were aghast that President Trump would treat another world leader like a world leader. The media relentlessly attacked President Trump and claimed he suffered a, quote, major defeat for not immediately emerging with a final agreement, even though he said heading into that meeting, this was a meeting to listen and to understand how to move the ball forward.
No, a few weeks ago, Donald Trump said over and over again, major progress coming. We're going to get a peace deal done. He even said, I'm giving Russia 50 days to make a deal. And if we don't hit it in 50 days, I'm going to put sanctions on Russia. And then he backtracked it a little bit. Then he said, well, I don't really know if sanctions are going to be necessary. And oh, that meeting, there might not be a peace deal. It might just be more of a chat. We might just hang out a little bit, chit chat in Alaska, have lunch together. The lunch was canceled, by the way. Donald Trump left early. Donald Trump left in defeat. He left in disgrace after wasting millions of taxpayer dollars to do a little song and dance to legitimize, like you said, Caroline, he legitimized a dictator, a war criminal, a man responsible for killing civilians, a man who no other country would allow into their country, otherwise he would be arrested. But in our country, suddenly that's okay because Donald Trump is beholden to Russia. They must have something on him or he wants to do business with Putin because Donald Trump said Putin wants to cut a deal for Trump.
All weekend following those historic U.S.-Russia bilateral talks, we listened to clueless pundits on television trying but failing to claim that the president had failed. The so-called experts in the foreign policy establishment, whose record is nothing but endless wars, trillions of wasted taxpayer dollars, and dead Americans, have the nerve to try and lecture President Trump, who has solved 7 global conflicts in 7 months, about peace.
No, he hasn't. And by the way, the entitlement from this administration is unbelievable. You act like Trump has this amazing track record for success. His first term was a failure. He tanked our economy. He completely dropped the ball in the pandemic, led to over 500,000 Americans losing their lives. How does this country have amnesia? The guy literally said COVID was going to go away and people were dying. The 9/11 equivalent of deaths was taking place every single day in this country. And yes, COVID affected the whole world. But it did not affect the whole world the way it affected our country here. And that's just the start of it. That's just his first failed term. His second term, after he tried to overturn the government, now he's basically encouraging a famine right now, a famine in Gaza, fundraised by US dollars. Your dollars are paying for what's happening there, and Donald Trump is allowing it to continue. And Donald Trump is taking over the military. How are you going to say that he's ended wars overseas when he is literally declaring war on the American people? People are getting kidnapped. People are getting abducted. Later, we'll talk about what's happening in Texas right now. There's a Democrat who is being held captive in the state capitol because she won't sign a piece of paper that says police are allowed to follow her for weeks and weeks and weeks. They're allowed to track her and stalk her to make sure she signs a bill that would allow far-right extremists in Texas to try and rig the midterm elections for Trump. Why would they be trying to rig the elections? Because they know they're failing. They know their policies are so unpopular with the American people. That's the only reason for it. That's the only reason why they'd be so desperate to try and cheat. That's their only way they can cling on to power.
This is the same president, by the way, who brokered the Abraham Accords in his first term, on top of more than half.
This is the same president who moved the capital to Jerusalem, which angered the Palestinian people. This is the same president who told Netanyahu to do whatever the hell he wants in Gaza. This is the same president who says he wants to make the Trump Riviera of the Middle East. This is the same president who is sending billions of American dollars to fund Trump's famine. Same president.
Half a dozen other peace deals this year alone, as I just said. We also saw yesterday the president of Ukraine and all of the other major leaders of Europe fly across the Atlantic Ocean to meet President Trump at the White House because of the progress that was made and that, if you ask the media, failed meeting, but it was not. It was highly productive and it was successful. This is why Americans' trust in the mass media is at a lowest point in more than 5 decades. Diplomacy is a delicate process, and instead of reporting the facts about what is happening here at this White House and what is happening between this president and other leaders around the world, many outlets in this room continue to try to actively undermine the president and sabotage the efforts towards peace. That is why I felt the need to set the record straight.
Is that why you felt the need to set the record straight, or is that why they're paying you to set the record straight? You are a traitor to our country. By the way, when this is all over, when their little reign of terror is over, their little run at the White House with their little Trump 2028 hats and their Epstein Files Volume 1 binders and all this crap, then they're going to pretend to be normal Americans. They're going to try and assimilate. They're going to try and blend in and hope that we forgive and we forget. But guess what? I don't know about you, but I would encourage you to take my approach, which is I will not forgive and I will not forget. These people are traitors to our country. People like Caroline Leavitt belong in alligator Alcatraz. Hate to say it, but that's the reality. You are encouraging people to lose their lives. You are lying to the American people, and you are trying to fundamentally dismantle our democracy and alter the Constitution in ways that would further destroy the world.
In other news, on the home front, President Trump's efforts to make D.C. safe again are working. There have been a total of 465 arrests since the start of this operation on Thursday, August 7th.
If you're watching on TikTok, by the way, please, I encourage you, come watch on YouTube. I see there's 200 people on TikTok. Join me on YouTube. You'll be able to see my screen. Link is in my bio. You can also go on YouTube, search Josh the Progressive. I promise you, it's a much better viewing experience to watch on YouTube. You can watch on your phone, on your computer, on your TV. Come watch on YouTube. I hope to see you there.
Last night, there were a total of 52 arrests, including the arrest of an illegal alien MS-13 gang member with convictions for DWI and drug possession. Thanks to President Trump's leadership and the outstanding work of both federal and local law enforcement, dangerous gang members like the one picked up last night will not be allowed on the streets of our nation's capital. Other arrests last night included assault with a deadly weapon for stabbing, parole violation for robbery, murder, outstanding warrant for attempted murder, assault on federal law enforcement officer, and felony assault. 4 more homeless encampments were also removed during yesterday's reporting period. To date, a total of 48 homeless encampments have been cleared in Washington, D.C. by multi-agency teams. MPD patrol units are actively working with city officials to locate and clear additional encampments and remove homeless residents off of Washington's streets. And despite fake narratives from the media, again, a significant number of the arrests have been in high crime areas of D.C. In fact, nearly half of all of the non-illegal alien-related arrests have occurred in wards 7 and 8, the 2 wards that have the highest number of violent crime, as well as homicides and assaults with dangerous weapons.
Distraction, just a distraction from the Epstein files, by the way.
Last year. So while Democrats continue to coddle violent criminals, President Trump and this administration are focused on putting them behind bars and unapologetically standing up for the safety of law-abiding American citizens. And the White House will continue to provide all of you with the results of this operation in the days ahead. So with that, I will take your questions today. Here in our new media seat today, we have Jack Posobiec, who joined us in Anchorage, Alaska last week. Jack, thanks for being here. Why don't you kick us off?
Their new media seat, I've said this before, I'll say it again because there's always new listeners, so you need to know. Their new media seat is basically just whatever C-list, fake influencer, MAGA, online Twitter person of the week they want to invite to the White House to ask softball questions. So here's Jack Poso. He's going to ask a little softball right here. Here comes a little softball from little Jack.
Caroline, thanks so much. So a couple of questions regarding the status of these peace talks. Obviously, we saw the President and President Putin there in Anchorage. We saw the world leaders here yesterday with this summit. We've heard phrases like coalition of the willing. We've also heard Article 5-like guarantees. When it comes to the security guarantees, what is the current status of that? I know the President earlier today mentioned boots on the ground would be UK, France, Germany possibly, but unequivocally said no U.S. troops on the ground, but U.S. coordination. Can you elaborate on that, and what would the red lines be?
Sure. Well, you got to the heart of what I was going to say to all of you today on security guarantees, which is the President has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination.
But apparently they'll be on the ground in Venezuela. I don't know if you saw, but today, Caroline, maybe she'll even talk about it in this press conference, how we're going to put troops on the ground in Venezuela. Get ready for that.
And perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies. The President understands security guarantees are crucially important to ensure a lasting peace, and he has directed his national security team to coordinate with our friends in Europe and also to continue to cooperate and discuss these matters with Ukraine and Russia as well.
Caroline, now have the Russians responded at all? I know we spoke with President Putin last night. What has been their response? Because we've heard some reports from the Kremlin and others saying they're unequivocally against NATO troops on the ground.
Well, look.
This guy is such a traitor to our country. He's no different than Caroline Leavitt. The only difference is he does his propaganda on X. She does it in front of the whole media. No difference, though.
The president continues to have these conversations with both leaders. Those conversations took place in Anchorage, Alaska, again yesterday with the Europeans and President Zelensky, and he has directed his team to come up with a framework for these security guarantees that can be acceptable to help ensure a lasting peace and end this war.
And then just last question real quick on this. Regarding some of the funding, we're hearing questions about another round of weapons sales or possibly a round of U.S. purchases of Ukrainian drones. Will that money be funded by the U.S. taxpayers? Are we finally going to see an end to the U.S. taxpayer-funded, seemingly endless mandate for these foreign wars?
Well, the president is very...
What a grave misconception of what's happening. That just goes to show that no matter how many followers some of these far-right extremists have on X, they have no idea what they're talking about. They just read one tweet or look at one random Fox News article and then just start regurgitating shit online. This guy has no idea how it works. And he's saying, oh, well, Donald Trump is going to put an end to the taxpayer money going to Ukraine. That's not how it works. It's not how it works.
Sensitive to the needs of the American taxpayer. And immediately upon entering office back in January, he made it very clear that we're not going to continue writing blank checks to fund a war very far away, which is why he came up with a very creative solution to have NATO purchase American weaponry because it is the best in the world, and then to backfill the needs of the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian people and their military. So that's the solution the president has came up with. We'll continue to see that forward. As for any additional sales, I'll have to defer you to the Department of Defense.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jack. Kelly.
What has President Trump learned that tells him that Vladimir Putin would be willing to make a deal for him, for President Trump?
Well, the president has learned a lot, which is part of the reason he opened up this dialogue. The previous administration who
Caroline, you're either deflecting or you didn't hear the question. The question was, Putin said he wants to make a deal for Trump. That's what Trump said. What's that about? But Caroline Levitt, let's continue to hear your little deflection.
Saw the beginning of this war refused to talk. And President Trump has always said, in order to learn, in order to move the ball forward with diplomacy and towards peace, you have to have open dialogue. And so that's why the president has had several conversations by phone and, of course, an in-person meeting last Friday with President Putin. He also has talked to President Zelensky dozens of times, had him here at the White House yesterday, and he's understanding what both sides want, what both sides are going to have to give up. And he has always said, in order to get a good deal, both sides are going to have to walk away a little bit unhappy. So he continues to learn a lot throughout these conversations, which is why we've seen progress from both sides. And I would also just add, when it comes to learning and moving the ball forward, look at how both Russia and Ukraine have actually talked directly for the first time in many years, thanks to the efforts of this president and this administration.
What are you talking about? You intentionally didn't invite Zelensky to the meeting with Russia. You said it was Russia and US only. And Zelensky wasn't even invited. Nobody from Ukraine was invited. Now there's maybe a possibility that the three leaders are going to get together. And why is Donald Trump even involved in this other than he's trying to score points for the midterms, like I said? Yes, the US should try to get a peace deal done. But Donald Trump is only trying to get the cheapest and quickest peace deal done to sell out the people of Ukraine to Russia. And he's basically working on behalf of the Kremlin.
Specifically for President Trump, though, what do you think Putin's motivation is to try to do something for President Trump, as opposed to just resolving the conflict?
I think, as I just spoke to in my opening remarks, Kelly, Russia and all countries around this world actually respect the United States again. And
either Caroline doesn't understand the question or she didn't see the hot mic moment, which for everybody watching on TikTok, by the way, come watch on YouTube because I'll show the clip of Donald Trump basically was caught on a hot mic saying that Putin wants to cut a deal for Trump. He wants to make a deal for Trump. This is crazy. I don't think Trump was meant to be heard saying this. Take a listen to this. Ready?
I think he wants to make a deal. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that, as crazy as it sounds?
What was said in The Beast when Donald Trump gave a war criminal a free ride What was said between them that would encourage Donald Trump to think that Putin wants to cut a deal for him? It's very concerning. Clearly, he did not want that to be recorded by the media because he's kind of whispering to other European leaders as he says that. But there might be some kind of secret business deal happening because we know Donald Trump does business with Russia. We know Donald Trump has done business with Russia going back decades. So this is nothing new. And now Donald Trump seems to think that Putin is going to do a favor for Trump. Very, very concerning.
The president is using the might of American strength to demand that respect from our allies, our friends, our adversaries all around the world. And we've seen that not just lead to progress with Russia and Ukraine, but also we've seen it in the closing of 7 global conflicts around the world as well. We've seen it with the release of hostages in Gaza. You've seen it with the end of the conflict between India and Pakistan, which could have resulted.
You don't want to bring up Gaza, Caroline. That's not a good thing to bring up. This is Trump's famine. This is Trump's famine taking place there. Donald Trump's famine. He will forever be known as the president who helped create a famine in Gaza where millions of people are starving to death. Children are dying every single day because the U.S. has a blockade. They're preventing food from getting in there. And they're sending billions of dollars to a foreign country under the guise of America First to conduct what will forever be known as Trump's famine.
In a nuclear war if we had not had a president who believed in the strength and the leverage that comes with the job of being the president of the United States of America. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Heading into Alaska.
By the way, when Benjamin Netanyahu gives Trump a Nobel Peace Prize nomination, that's how you know Donald Trump should forever be disqualified from the Nobel Peace Prize. That act alone, the fact that he's being recommended by Netanyahu for a peace prize, tells you everything you need to know about Trump's actual eligibility for a peace prize.
All the focus in the talk was on this trilateral meeting between these 3 leaders. Can you explain how this went from a trilateral meeting involving President Trump to now the focus being on this bilateral meeting without the president first?
Well, look, the president has spoken to both leaders about this, and both leaders have expressed a willingness to sit down with each other. And so our national security team will help both countries do that. Ultimately, the president...
No, now it's nobody wants Donald Trump to be there. They're like, you're useless, man. You are sundowning. You are completely off the rails. You have no idea what either of our countries need. You're clearly just interested in doing this for yourself. We don't want you here. That could be what's happening.
The president has always said that there are areas of disagreement in this war that will have to be discussed and decided upon by these 2 countries. And so he wants these 2 countries to engage in direct diplomacy. He's said that from the very beginning, which is why he's agreeable to the idea of having President Zelensky and President Putin get together. And I understand accommodations for that meeting are underway. As soon as we hear more...
We are so close to the most concurrent viewers on my live ever. Right now, it says on YouTube, there's 23 people watching all at the same time. If a couple people from TikTok can come over to YouTube, help me reach a new record. I want to have the most people watching my live ever so far as we continue to build this new show. Come over to YouTube. You can see my screen directly. You can watch on your phone. You can watch on your computer. I promise you it's a better experience. Appreciate you for being here, by the way. If you want to keep watching on TikTok, go ahead. But I encourage you to come over to YouTube as we break down everything that's happening in this disastrous 24-hour period for Trump so far.
Details, we'll be sure to let all of you know.
And just a quick follow-up. We know as of right now there is no ceasefire in place. We've seen Russia continue its attacks on Ukraine. What indications is the president getting from Putin that he wants to have this meeting with Zelensky soon?
Because he spoke to him directly yesterday.
And he expressed that
Haley,
sooner rather than later.
He spoke to that directly yesterday, and the president put that in his statement that he gave to all of you, the news media, knowing you'd be asking following that conversation in the effort of transparency.
Notice how Donald Trump yesterday walked away from European leaders because he wanted to take a phone call with Putin, even though clearly this is a war between Ukraine and Russia, and you would think that Putin and Zelensky should be the ones having a conversation. And Donald Trump said he did this because he wanted to be polite and respectful to Putin. not to the European leaders he's walking away from to take another phone call with the enemy. He says he wants to do this to be polite to Putin.
Haley.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. You made clear no U.S. boots on the ground. Is the president considering U.S. boots in the air as a form of a security guarantee?
Look, that was something the president mentioned on his interview this morning. It is an option and a possibility. I won't certainly rule out anything as far as military options that the president has at his disposal. I'll let him do that. I can tell you he's definitively ruled out boots on the ground. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. Just about the possible venue for the talks. Can you confirm that Putin suggested Moscow as a venue for the bilateral talks? And if so, doesn't that indicate that Putin is perhaps not serious about this, that he's suggesting a venue that there's no way that Zelensky is going to go to?
Look, I'm not going to litigate the private conversations between the president and President Putin, aside from what the president himself...
Does Putin really think that Zelensky is going to go to Moscow? And Trump is okay with this? This war is not going to end anytime soon, despite what Trump is telling you.
Has already spoken on, but I can tell you there are many options that are being discussed by our national security team right now with both parties.
Can you give us an indication of where?
I just told you we'll provide you details as soon as we can. Thank you for trying, though. Libby.
Thank you, Caroline. I wanted to ask about the National Guard troops. How is the White House coordinating with how they're being placed in D.C., what areas? And then also...
She's so snippy. Like, she talks about such serious, important topics, like life or death issues for people in Ukraine, for people in Russia. And she's like, thank you. Yeah, everything's all good. I'm so happy to be working in the Trump administration. It's so insufferable and it's so tone deaf. That's the big thing. It's tone deaf. She's clearly not in touch with what real Americans are witnessing, living through, and she's certainly not in touch with what the people of Ukraine are dealing with.
How long should people here in the district anticipate the National Guard to be on the ground patrolling the streets?
I don't have a timeline for you, Libby, but we will keep you posted on that. I think the president, as you know, and this administration, he came to this briefing room with members of his cabinet to lay out the rationale and the reasoning for federalizing the National Guard here in Washington, D.C., and for our work with the Metropolitan Police Department to make our district safer. We've seen violent crime has taken the lives of far too many residents here in our nation's capital, and the president wants to make it safe again. And as for the coordination efforts, this interagency team is meeting and talking.
Remember, Donald Trump is talking about sending the military to places like LA, which he's done, New York, Boston, San Francisco, Oakland, basically any Democrat city that he can name. Basically any city that supplies the economy for this country, any city that provides culture and livelihoods for millions of Americans that happens to be a blue city. He's like, these cities are out of control. We're going to send the military there. That's why martial law is a real possibility. That's why he could suspend elections. He's laying the groundwork. He's setting the table to potentially declare a state of emergency, say that the cities are under chaos, the elections are stolen, the elections are rigged. There's no guardrails in this administration. This is not like his first term. Things are way worse now because everybody is treating him like he's the dictator of North Korea. They're letting him go completely unchecked. They're kissing his ass every chance they get. They've got this lady, Caroline, who's going up there, distracting from the Epstein files, distracting from the famine in Gaza, trying to trick the American people into thinking that a peace deal is coming with Ukraine when this could ultimately spiral into a bigger conflict with other European countries. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. That's why it's so important to keep sharing the truth about what's really happening.
Daily. In fact, there's a meeting taking place right now in the West Wing with members of the Interagency Task Force to continue to discuss not just the National Guard deployment, but also how we can...
Somebody on TikTok says, by the way, if you're watching on TikTok, come watch on YouTube. I've already had a couple people on YouTube say that it is a much better viewing experience than TikTok because you can actually see what I'm watching. So come watch on YouTube. Link is in my bio, or just search Josh the Progressive. Somebody on TikTok said, "You're so full of it. You must have a crystal ball or something." Yeah, I do have a fucking crystal ball. I guarantee you, save this video right now, save this live stream, save this, come back to it in a few months when I am telling you that Donald Trump is going to use martial law. I want you to come back to this video because I do have a fucking crystal ball. Maybe I don't get the exact timing right. Maybe not every little detail is right. But I am telling you, full stop, Donald Trump is going to try and cling to power as long as he can. And obviously, he's going to die. Obviously, he's not going to last forever. But this far-right movement is going to try and cling to power, whether it's J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. These billionaire oligarchs are trying to fundamentally dismantle the Constitution so that their way of life can maintain.
Continue to remove public safety threats off of the streets of Washington, which, as the numbers I just showed you prove, they are doing every single night. I will just reiterate, 465 total arrests and counting since the start of this operation. I believe 11 or 12 days ago. I'll have to check the calendar, but
somebody says, just a complaining kid with no life experience. Hey, bud, last week I interviewed the governor of California, okay? He's the governor of the biggest state in this country and possibly the next president. Okay, I'm pretty sure I have enough life experience to comment on whatever the hell Caroline Leavitt is spewing on the daily.
those are pretty remarkable results. If not for this task force and their high level of coordination and the leadership of this president, there would have been 465 more violent criminals on the streets of this capital that you all live in every day. So I think we should...
They talk so much about violent criminals on the street of DC when Trump is literally a criminal. He was literally convicted of 34 felonies. What? What world are we living in? I thought the Republicans hated crime. I thought they wanted to shut crime down. Imagine if Joe Biden was oh my God. Could you imagine if Kamala Harris was a convicted felon? Kamala Harris, a convicted felon? Fox News would still be airing that content today. Even months after the election, they'd be like, Kamala, convicted Kamala. Kamala the killer, Kamala the criminal, she belongs in prison. While Donald Trump is literally, objectively speaking, a criminal. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He's a criminal, and he's the president. There's a walking free man named Donald Trump who belongs in prison, and you have the audacity to say that you're the pro-police, pro-law and order party? Look at this face. This is the face of chaos, people. Chaos is coming, thanks to this administration.
I'll be very grateful for that. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 3 questions about the D.C. crackdown.
Sure.
First, I was wondering if you could clarify something President Trump said. He mentioned getting rid of the slums where criminals live. Was he talking about tents or permanent residential buildings? And then the mayor has expressed an interest in clarifying how much of a focus illegal immigration enforcement is as part of this crackdown. Can you say anything about that?
Sure.
And third, any preview on the beautification?
3 questions. I'll try to answer all 3 of them pointedly for you.
The hypocrisy is crazy, but no matter how much we expose their hypocrisy, it's not going to change. The only real change is going to come from serious resistance. A lot of people are saying, well, Gavin Newsom's not a perfect leftist. He's not the most progressive, the most socialist candidate that would be out there for president. Yeah, well, right now, Gavin Newsom's the only governor of the only Democrat state that is actually trying to push back by playing ball. He's trying to redraw California's maps to offset what they're doing in Texas, which, by the way, a Democrat in Texas is being held captive right now in the Capitol because she won't sign papers that say she can be followed around by police for weeks and weeks to make sure she signs a piece of legislation that allows Trump and far-right extremists to try and cheat on the election. That's what's taking place. So yeah, that's why I appreciate Gavin Newsom for resisting. Hypocrisy, they have it all the time. This party is the hypocrisy party. But resistance comes not from just calling them out, but from actually organizing and creating a real movement of resistance on the left.
First, when it comes to what you said and the president said, the slums of Washington, D.C., he's referring to the most dangerous communities, neighborhoods, and streets in this city where, unfortunately, violence has ravaged these communities and taken the lives of, again, far too many law-abiding D.C. residents. We know on July 5th of this year, just more than a month ago, a 3-year-old beautiful young girl was shot and killed in her car with her family.
Oh, here goes your political pathos. You want to speak about a specific anecdote of a sad story. Look, it's sad, okay? I acknowledge that. Don't distract us. We know what's really going on. We know what this is about. This isn't about the girl. And that's so disgusting, by the way. That's so disgraceful. This is the exact same thing that happened when Trump had his fake State of the Union and they brought that boy out who had cancer. And they're like, look at this boy who has cancer. Now we're going to make him a member of the Secret Service. And that was literally at the same time as they defunded millions and millions of dollars for cancer research. They literally just slashed cancer research. They literally are going to allow people to just die of cancer. And they're like, but look, we have this boy with cancer and now he's a Secret Service agent. Oh.
In one of these communities, which is why there has been a surge, despite what many of you have been falsely reporting. And I believe it was the Washington Post who put out a map claiming it to be fact-based when it was just based on, I don't know, accounts that they've heard on the street, not actual statistics and data. So we went and reconfigured the numbers, and as I said,
reconfigured the numbers? Did you hear what she just said? Let me run that back real quick.
Claiming it to be fact-based when it was just based on, I don't know, accounts that they've heard on the street, not actual statistics and data. So we went and reconfigured the numbers, and as I said...
We went in and reconfigured the numbers? This is actually in line with what happened about a week ago when the Labor Bureau released the jobs report, which showed that the U.S. economy was slowing, that we weren't gaining as many jobs as we were predicted to. We were supposed to gain over 110,000 jobs. We only gained around 70,000 as people are getting laid off in droves. And they fired the person in charge of releasing the statistics. They fired the person in charge of just releasing the data. And they said, we want factual data now. We want real data. This is some 1984 bullshit. Let me get the cat real quick. The cat is once again begging to come in.
Nearly half of all the non-illegal alien-related arrests have occurred in wards 7 and 8 in the District of Columbia, where we know, excuse me, there's the highest rate of crime. So we'll continue to do that. And what was your second question, Stephen?
Legal immigration, how much of a focus that is?
Yeah, look, I mean, the focus is to make D.C. safe and beautiful and to remove public safety threats and violent criminals from our streets. If federal law enforcement, with the help of the Metropolitan Police
Department,
TikTok
right now,
come
come watch
across
on YouTube.
illegal aliens,
Record number
of
of people
course,
watching on YouTube
we are
right
going
now,
to
and you will
abide
be
by
able to
this
watch
administration's
exactly what I'm
policy
showing
of
instead of
law
just
and order,
hearing it
and we are going to
through my phone.
remove
Come watch on
illegal
YouTube right
criminals from our nation's capital. They will be detained and deported, just like they are in every other community across the country. Kristen.
First question is, whose idea was it to change the next steps from a trilateral to a bilateral meeting?
It was an idea that evolved in the course of the president's conversations with both President Putin, President Zelensky, and the European leaders yesterday. And as you saw, Kristen, with all of those European leaders leaving the White House, including the NATO Secretary General, they all agreed that this is a great first step. And it's a good thing that these two leaders are going to be sitting down together, and the president expects that to happen.
And how long is Trump willing to wait and operate in good faith for Putin to actually arrange a meeting before he intervenes?
Look, the president has put tremendous public pressure to bring this war to a close. He's taken actions, as you've seen, sanctions on it.
Tremendous public pressure, but nobody fucking believes anything this guy says, Donald Trump. He says, oh, 50 days. If Russia doesn't make a deal in 50 days, I'm going to put sanctions on Russia, which the sanctions should have been on already, by the way. You're allowing Russia's economy to recover while they blow up civilians and hurt America's interests in Europe. And then we know that was complete bullshit because now Donald Trump is like, oh, well, a ceasefire doesn't actually need to happen. What? What? How are you going to make a peace deal if there's no ceasefire? You need to have a stop in the fighting. Every single day, Donald Trump is like, major progress on Russia. And then that same day, it's like, Russia blows up Ukrainian city. Hundreds dead. Thousands injured. It's literally every single day. It's nonstop. Donald Trump tweets, big progress on Russia. Things are happening. That same day, Russia bombs another Ukrainian town. Dozens killed as Putin continues advancing into Ukraine.
India and other actions as well. He's made himself...
The YouTube is Josh the Progressive. You can find it linked in my bio. So if you go to my profile, you go to the link tree, you can go right to my YouTube, link in bio. You could also just go on YouTube, type in Josh the Progressive. That should be the easiest way to find it, and you'll see it on my profile. We're live now. There's dozens of people watching on YouTube, and it's a much better experience, I promise you. The TikTok really is just to advertise the YouTube, so come on over.
very clear that he wants to see this war end, and he has scoffed at the ideas of others that have been raised that we should wait another month before any meeting takes place. The president wants to move, and he wants to bring this war to.
If he wanted to move, then why did he say 50 days until sanctions kick in? Yet other countries, he's like, if Canada doesn't make a deal with me, I'm going to put sanctions on them in 10 days. Hey, ow. Cat just bit me. Mean cat. That freaked me out. Sorry about that.
An end as quickly as possible.
Just a clarification on something you said earlier about Putin agreeing to the meeting.
Cat got mad.
The Kremlin seemed to indicate that Putin did not firmly agree to a bilateral. Did he agree to have a sit down with just Zelensky on the phone?
I can assure you that the United States government and the Trump administration is working with both Russia and Ukraine to make that bilateral happen as we speak. Sean.
Hey, if the point is to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call from Putin while the other leaders were in the room? He said it would be disrespectful to do that, but why is it disrespectful?
With all due respect, only a reporter from the New York Times would ask a question like that, Sean.
What? What? That was a perfectly normal question. That was a completely fine question. That was an acceptable question. I'm not from the New York Times. I want to know the answer to that. Did you all hear that just now? Listen to this. Listen to what he said. This is important.
If the point is to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call from Putin while the other leaders were in the room? He said it would be disrespectful to do that, but why is it disrespectful?
With all due respect, only a...
What? That's a great question. That's what I want to know. If the point is to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call with Putin with the other European leaders so that everybody can get on the same page? And instead of answering, which is not even a tough question, he's not even grilling Caroline here. A question she has no answer to. Watch this immediately turn into a 1984 style attack, an attack on the press. We like to act like we're different than Russia because in Russia there is no free press. Here we have a free press under the guise of if you say something they don't like, you're not going to get a real answer. Watch.
Reporter from the New York Times would ask a question like that, Sean. The president met with all of these European leaders at the White House 48 hours after sitting down with President Putin on American soil. In fact, there was so much progress in the readout that was given to these European leaders immediately following his meeting with President Putin that every single one of them got on a plane 48 hours later and flew to the United States of America. And if I could just read for all of you some of the...
What a crazy spin job by Caroline Leavitt. What a twist of facts. What a twist of reality. Let's correct the record here because people need to know what's really happening. Some people will take what she said with face value. That's bullshit. Here's what really went down. They act like it's a point of pride that Putin came to American soil. Wrong. No other country would have allowed Putin onto their land. If he showed up in France, England, etc., he would have been arrested on the spot. But here in the United States, because Donald Trump is our fascist president, he celebrates a war criminal. He gives him a red carpet. He wastes taxpayer dollars to give him a little flyover, a little fly job. Lets him in the back of the beast so they can cuddle in the car, feel each other's pants, because Donald Trump apparently owes something to Putin. So no, it was not a point of pride. It was not an amazing thing that Putin came to American soil. It was fucking bullshit, and it was a disgrace to our country. You would think with that happening, at least we would have gotten something out of it. That didn't happen either. Donald Trump left the meeting early in disgrace, in shame, in failure. There was no development from that meeting. Apparently, Putin's demands were so extreme that Fox News even said that Donald Trump got steamrolled by Putin. Putin came in ready to lay out his demands, and Donald Trump was not prepared. And then Caroline Leavitt wants to spin it like, oh, well, the meeting was so successful that 48 hours later, all the European leaders wanted to come to D.C. No, they came because they saw the way Zelensky got berated in the White House. They came because they were not ready to allow Donald Trump to sell Ukraine out to the Russians to get the cheapest and quickest peace deal done, because Donald Trump is a sick man. He's a traitor to Ukraine. He's a traitor to the United States, because defending Ukraine is America first. It's in America's interests to prevent another country from invading the sovereign territory of our ally and killing civilians in droves. That's one of the few good things that the American government is doing right now, is standing up for Ukraine. Sure, we're allowing a genocide and a famine to take place in Gaza. Trump's famine is currently taking place. It's being fundraised by the Americans. But at least we're trying to help Ukraine. And now Donald Trump and his propaganda minister, they have the audacity to say that it was a good thing that Putin came to the United States, to Alaska, to have a red carpet for a war criminal, to shake hands and laugh and bring him into the presidential motorcade to sit next to our president. And the European leaders came to Zelensky because of what Donald Trump did? No, they came because of what Donald Trump did a few months ago when he bullied Zelensky publicly on camera. He said Zelensky had no cards. Donald Trump gave all the cards to Putin. Putin has all the fucking leverage right now. You want to say that I'm triggered? Yeah, I am triggered. This is triggering because people are dying while she snickers and laughs here in the White House about how great Donald Trump is. People's lives are being lost because of Trump.
The statements from those European leaders yesterday, you had President Zelensky himself saying it was a very good conversation. It was really good. We spoke about very sensitive points. The Secretary General, Mark Rutte, it was the president, only because of the president, that this deadlock was broken, but with President Putin by starting a dialogue. So these leaders, who this war is in their backyard, are very grateful that the president took that call and that he was there to provide them with a readout of Russia's thinking on this, something that was not done by the previous administration at all. Catherine.
Thank you.
The previous administration, which you claim didn't even win the election, Biden won the election. The previous administration never normalized a fascist thug known as Putin. But because we have a fascist thug known as Trump, one fascist thug is surely going to be compatible with another fascist thug. Two fascist slugs getting along. That's what's happening in the US and Russia, Trump and Putin.
Is the White House looking at Budapest as a possible location?
I'm not going to confirm or deny locations. We'll provide you with details as soon as we can.
On Kristen's question, I understand that the White House is working and allies are working to make this meeting happen, but did Putin promise to do a meeting with Zelensky, a direct meeting, in the coming weeks?
Even the liberal media, what the fuck are these questions? The only somewhat concrete question we had was from the New York Times reporter who said, why would it be disrespectful for Trump to have a call with Putin? Shouldn't everybody be talking to get on the same page? And she's like, only a reporter from the New York Times would ask such a question. If I were there, I would ask this. Why did Donald Trump say he would get a peace deal done between Ukraine and Russia on day one? He's now been president for almost a year, and this war is nowhere near the end. This war is further from ending than it was when he entered office. That's what I would ask. I would love to hear Caroline Leavitt answer that question.
He has, and I just answered that question for you. Franco.
Thanks. I just want to clarify. So you are saying that President Trump is considering U.S. pilots and U.S. aircraft potentially supporting European or Ukrainian forces?
The president spoke to that himself this morning when he called into Fox and Friends, and I would defer you to his answer. You can read it directly yourself.
I can't wait to hear how the America First crowd reacts to that. That's going to be hilarious.
In addition, can I ask, no boots on the ground, Steve Witkoff's talking about Article 5-like security guarantees. Can you talk about what other Article 5-like security guarantees that are being considered if it's not boots on the ground?
These are very sensitive diplomatic discussions that are currently taking place literally as we speak. So
what's sensitive is this. Putin sees Donald Trump as his friend. And Putin, he's not trying to embarrass Trump. And Putin knows that Trump is in a tough spot because Trump promised to end the war. And Trump has to pretend like he's on the side of Ukraine, even though Donald Trump is on the side of Russia. Now, Putin can't allow this war to end because Putin knows if this war ends, Putin's reign of terror ends, because right now Russia is struggling. Their economy stinks because the whole world is turned on Russia. And Putin knows that the one thing keeping him in power is pointing at Ukraine and telling the Russian people, that's your enemy, that's the source of all your problems. Believe in me, trust in me, let's continue fighting Ukraine, let's take over Ukraine, and we will be great again. sending thousands of Russian soldiers to die every week to complete this goal. He would love this war to continue going forever like a factory. But he can't embarrass Trump because Trump is his friend. He helped Trump get back into power. Yes, he did. Don't think that Russia didn't have a hand in helping Trump. So it's a really tough spot for Putin. So what I really think is going to happen is there's going to be some kind of fake deal or fake ceasefire where the fighting's going to like stop for a little while. It could even stop for the rest of Trump's presidency, but it's not going to be a real lasting peace. That's what I mean when I say Trump is going to get the quickest and cheapest peace deal done. He's going to sell out Ukraine. He's going to go tell all his C-list fake influencer MAGA wannabe celebrities to take their marching orders and go to social media, hold up their little Epstein binders, phase 1, and say, look, Donald Trump got the war stopped. Joe Biden started the war. Donald Trump is the no new wars president. When in reality, the only answers they have are, this is Biden's war, not Trump's war. Well, Trump's the president. He hasn't been able to get the war stopped, and he's only making it worse. And if he gets a fake peace deal done, it's only going to lead to more bloodshed in the future.
So I will leave it to the national security team, and I'll leave it to the president to have those private discussions with these leaders as we try to bring this war to an end.
Can I ask one
Mary
more?
Margaret, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions, if that's okay. So on these meetings, I know you said that the trilateral will take...
Oh, she is the worst. This fake MAGA influencer. She is the absolute worst. Let's see what kind of softball she wants to tee up today. I cannot wait. She's worse than Jack. Her questions are disgraceful. They're not even questions. They're just scripted little softballs.
Place if necessary. Do you think that we might not need the trilateral and that Zelensky and Putin might come to this conclusion on their own? And then as a follow-up, I know the president said on Fox News this morning that he's partially seeking peace in order to get to heaven. Was he joking, or is there spiritual motivation behind his peace deals here?
What the fuck are we watching right now? What the hell is going on to our country? I know that we have far-right white Christian nationalists running the show, but do you people really believe that Donald Trump is a Christian? Do people actually believe that Donald Trump is a holier-than-thou Christian who is doing everything he does in the name of Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior? Donald Trump, the man who was grazed by a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania, the man who was saved by God, the Messiah. He's now saying that he wants to end the war because he wants to make sure he's going to heaven. Donald Trump is going to fucking hell. He's going to hell. He's a sinner. He is going to rot in hell for the rest of his days because he has abused women. He has cheated on women. He has led to people losing their lives through his actions. I'm not going to say he's a murderer. He's never killed anybody directly as far as I'm aware, but his actions have led to people losing their lives, losing their livelihoods. He's a killer. Oh, 1 sec. What happened to my live? Make sure everybody can watch on TikTok. Hey, if you're watching on TikTok, by the way, come watch on YouTube. We have a record number of viewers on YouTube right now. You go to the link in my bio. It's a link tree. You can find my YouTube there, or you can just go on YouTube, search Josh the Progressive. I've already had numerous people on YouTube tell me it's a way better experience because you can actually watch what I'm showing right now. We're going to react to some other videos of news that happened today. So come watch on YouTube. Please, I encourage you, when you get to YouTube, type in the chat. Let me know, hey, here from TikTok. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Come to YouTube.
I think the president was serious. I think the president wants to get to heaven, as I hope we all do in this room as well. Annie.
If Donald Trump is in heaven, no offense to anybody out there, no offense at all. But if Donald Trump goes to heaven, count me out. I do not want to be there. I would rather be in hell. I'm sorry, but I don't believe in the constructs of a free and fair heaven if Donald Trump ends up in heaven. If Donald Trump is in heaven, that's hell. And by the way, imagine walking around heaven and seeing stinky ass Donald Trump walking around with a Big Mac, talking about how the election from 2020 was stolen. Could you imagine that? Can you imagine him floating on a cloud, hanging out with real heavenly people like MLK and JFK and Donald Trump's in heaven and he's eating a Big Mac, he's drinking a Coke, he's drinking a soda pop, and he's talking about how Trump Gaza was the best thing ever invented, how the casinos and the condos were so great and that all the Palestinians just went away. If Trump is in heaven, count me out. I would rather be in the ground.
Caroline, I'm just shifting gears to the Department of Justice for a minute. Can you walk us through why another deputy FBI director was named? Does Trump have any displeasure with how the FBI has been being run to date? And I have a question about the antitrust division.
No, Andrew Bailey is extremely qualified. As you know, he's been serving with honor as the Attorney General of Missouri, and he's been brought on as another set of very credible and experienced hands to work alongside the current Deputy Director, Dan Bongino, under the leadership of the Director, Kash Patel, and the Attorney General, Pam.
Remember Kash Patel said on day one he was going to release the Epstein files, how if he was ever given the opportunity, if he ever had a position of power, he would do that? Lie. Wrong. False. Fake news.
Bondi. And the FBI has been doing a tremendous job. We've seen their agents out on the streets as part of this interagency task force here in Washington. But the crime that they've been stopping here in Washington, they've been doing this for 7 months all across the country. In fact, there's been 19,000 arrests by the FBI nationwide. That's more than double last year in the same time period. Of those, 1,600 arrests were for violent crimes against children. 4,000 child victims have been rescued by this FBI under this current leadership. 1,000 arrests from investigations of foreign terrorist organizations. There's been 1,500 kilos of fentanyl seized, 6,300 kilos of meth have been seized, and 3 of the top 10 most wanted have been arrested so far. Not a single one of the individuals on the top 10 most wanted list were arrested under the previous administration. We've arrested 3 in 7 months. So when you're actually working and enforcing law and order, you need all hands on deck. And so we look forward to welcoming Andrew Bailey to this new post. Jackie.
I have a quick question about Roger Alfred, who's a former DOJ official. He gave a speech in Aspen yesterday where he said that senior DOJ aides are cutting deals with favored lobbyists. I'm wondering if the president has any concerns at all with the way the antitrust division is working.
I have no idea who that individual is. I don't know why he made those comments. I don't know what basis he's making those comments on. My instinct tells me it's
This is her other strategy. Either she pretends like she doesn't know that something's happening, or she actually does know and either she pretends like she doesn't know something's happening, or she genuinely doesn't know something's happening because she's only reading off her script.
not true, but we will definitely look into them and I'll get you a response.
Thank you, Caroline.
Jackie.
Thanks, Caroline. Since the president often says that this war would not have started if he were in office, and
True.
and Putin confirmed that.
It's true. Do you accept
False.
that as truth? The
Probably.
European leaders do.
Well,
and President Putin himself said that, by
he
the way.
did say that. The question I have, though, is what is the president...
Okay, that's not exactly what Putin said. And by the way, like I said, Putin owns Donald Trump. Putin is responsible for Donald Trump's rise to power. Maybe not the number one reason, maybe not the sole reason, but Donald Trump would not be in the position he's in without the love and support from the fascist Russia government. Think about it. In 2016, Russia colluded in the election to help Donald Trump and to hurt Hillary Clinton. Now, whether or not the Trump administration directly worked with Russia, that's up for debate. Personally, I believe they did because there is evidence to suggest that they did. However, what is indisputable, what a lot of people don't understand because they didn't pass AP government, they didn't pass civics class in high school, they're just fake MAGA influencers who have a platform. What people don't understand is Russia helped Donald Trump because they did collude in the 2016 election. They spread misinformation. They helped run advertisements. They had Russian bots going around United States social media trying to support Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton because Russia knew they had a friend in Donald Trump and they had a stiff opponent in Hillary Clinton. Now, do I endorse Hillary Clinton? Absolutely not. I voted for her. I wanted her to win over Trump. But the reality is Russia did collude. So, of course, Russia's going to say, and thank you for coming from TikTok, by the way. Of course, Russia's going to say, oh, if Donald Trump was president, this war would have never started. They're just parroting Donald Trump's own propaganda. And they're doing it because they know Joe Biden was actually a hardline opponent of Russia and he was supporting Ukraine. That is one of the few good things that Joe Biden did, was he created a coalition of Western nations to stand with Ukraine. And it was very noble. And it actually helped. It helped Ukraine resist Russian occupation. It's that simple. So, of course, now another MAGA influencer is going to say that the war would have never started if Donald Trump was president. Let's get to your question, lady.
Going to do to ensure that these security guarantees last beyond him into the time when he is no longer president? And does that have to involve Congress at all?
Well, he understands the need for that, which he spoke to yesterday. And what's he going to do? It's why he's engaging in so many talks and so many conversations with both sides of this
Remember, Donald Trump is doing this because he wants to go to heaven. That's his new story.
War with our European allies. It's why on the way home from Anchorage, Alaska, very late at night, when I know many of you on the press plane were sleeping and many staff were sleeping, the president himself was still awake at 2 o'clock in the morning.
The sundowning president was unable to go to sleep because he's mentally deranged, and he's slipping. This old man's slipping up at 2 in the morning, making decisions on behalf of the American people that could potentially cause more Ukrainian civilians to lose their lives.
Talking to European leaders and NATO about how we can ensure a lasting peace and bring this conflict to an end. He has expended an incredible amount of time, energy, and effort into bringing this war to an end, and he remains determined to do that.
Also, can
Go
I ask
ahead.
you about the
Go ahead.
Thank you, Carolyn.
DC crime?
Sure, Jake, and then to your right.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Which of the half dozen peace deals that the president's pulled off would you say he's the most proud of? And then I have another question.
That's a good question, Jake. I'll leave that to the president to answer. I think he's proud of all of the peace deals that he's been able to achieve. You saw the president.
What the fuck? What is that question? And who fucking cares? Who cares what peace deal Trump is most proud of? How about the fucking war that he promised to end that is only getting worse under his watch? How about the fucking famine that's called Trump's famine that's taking place right now? Why are we asking Caroline Leavitt what deal Trump is most proud of? Trump is not your friend, guy. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about you. And even if he had a deal he was most proud of, how does that make your life better? How does that make the American people better? That is a filler question. Thank you for commenting that.
President of Armenia and the head of Azerbaijan, both at the White House just a couple of weeks ago. The president, I know, very much enjoyed spending time with them and helping to bring that conflict to an end. He very much enjoyed his time with leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the Oval Office, talking to them about bringing that decades-long war to an end. India and Pakistan. He used trade in a very powerful way as leverage to bring that conflict to an end. So I know he's very proud of all of these achievements, and I know he's very honored to serve as the President of the United States and to restore peace around this world. Go ahead.
So you mentioned Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's a conflict that, I spent time in the Southern Caucasus covering that. And, a conflict of over 30 years, and he resolved it in just a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
It's not resolved, by the way. It's another fake peace deal. It's a cheap peace deal. Trump is essentially selling out the people of Armenia. It's really sad. I spoke with a friend who's deeply involved in Armenian politics, and people are very upset. A lot of Armenian Americans are very upset that Trump did what he did. And now there's a new route for trade. It's called the Trump route. Once again, putting his name on something just to sell out another people, another way of life. It's really sad. It's a fake peace deal. It's not going to last. It's just something Trump can take credit for. And this fucking disgrace to our country is going to have the audacity to give Caroline Leavitt some more softballs. You had enough airtime, buddy.
Are there other conflicts that the president's working on right now that are off the radar screen that we should be tracking?
Hey, you look Jewish to me, objectively speaking. And by the way, I'm Jewish. How about the conflict that's taking place in the Jewish state right now, where they're massacring people? Are we just going to forget like that conflict exists because we never hear about it in this press room, even though that conflict seems to be the one that is going to cause the most people to lose their lives, and Donald Trump is going to play a big role in that?
In fact, there are many. The State Department is always working around the clock under the leadership of Secretary Rubio and keeping the president apprised of conflicts that are bubbling up all over the world. But of course, as you all know, as we've talked a lot about in this briefing, he's spending a lot of time right now on ending this war in Russia-Ukraine, and of course the conflict in Israel and Gaza, which he wants to see come to a close as well.
The conflict.
So the president says that he's starting a movement to eliminate mail-in.
Yes, Jews are cool, by the way. Jews are cool. Jews are amazing. What's not amazing is what the Israeli government is doing. What's not amazing is what these far-right extremists are doing, and they're sending money from the United States to Israel to kill people. That's not cool. But Jews are cool, and I won't stand for any anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia. None of that's allowed here on my show.
Voting, but states administer elections, not federal authorities. So can you provide any more details about how the White House plans to eliminate that?
The White House continues to work on this, and when Congress comes back to Washington, I'm sure there will be many discussions with our friends on Capitol Hill and also our friends in state legislatures across the country to ensure that we're protecting the integrity of the vote for the American people. And I think Republicans generally, and the president generally, wants to make it easier for Americans to vote and harder for people to cheat in our elections. And it's quite mind-boggling that the Democrat Party could stand in opposition to common sense. He wants to ensure election integrity. There were great efforts that were made in 2024. I won't get ahead of myself for Hatch Act reasons to get ahead for the next election, but I can assure you this is a priority for the president. Go ahead.
If I could just follow up on your comments about Gaza.
Sure.
There was a ceasefire proposal put forward by both Qatar and Egypt. Hamas accepted it on Monday. Israel has yet to officially weigh in. I'm wondering if the U.S. was at all involved in it.
Once again, Hamas is ready to make a deal. Israel ready to keep killing. It's really sad.
If it's supportive of it, and whether or not the president believes Israel should accept it.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Hamas accepted this proposal after the President of the United States posted a very strong statement about this conflict on Truth Social yesterday. I would refer you back to that statement. As for this proposal that Hamas has now accepted, the United States continues to discuss it, and I'll let the President weigh in on it definitively.
Someone's saying that there was no deal, that Israel did not want to make a deal.
You're welcome.
Good job, Trump. Thank you, President Trump.
The president's perspective
No
on
deal.
taking a stake in Intel in exchange for federal grants. And is this are we expecting to see the White House make similar arrangements with other semiconductor companies and manufacturing companies?
Well, the president, he's been very clear about the need to reshore manufacturing that's critical to our national and economic security. That is especially in regards to chips and semiconductors, which is why the president has initiated the Commerce Department to conduct a study on semiconductors, a Section 232 investigation, so we can ultimately implement tariffs. And it's why our export license requirements remain in place as well. As for this 10% government stake deal, the Department of Commerce continues to work on it. I know Secretary Lutnick is working on it and ironing out the details, but the president wants to put America's needs first, both from a national security and economic perspective. And it's a creative idea that has never been done before to ensure that we're both reshoring these critical supply chains while also gaining something of it for the American taxpayer. You're welcome. Emily.
Thanks, Caroline. I wanted to ask about the 3 U.S. warships that are being sent to Venezuela. And
Oh, here we go.
Marines
Just about to talk about Venezuela.
At-
Hey, if you're watching on TikTok right now, come tune in on YouTube. We're going to finish talking about Caroline Leavitt. Then I want to talk about how the Trump administration gave the mayor of Boston until today to respond to ICE raids taking place in Boston. The mayor's response, you're going to want to see it. If you go on YouTube, you'll be able to actually watch what I'm reacting to. Please come on over. Link is in my bio, or you can just search Josh the Progressive. We'll be reacting to that next, right after Caroline Leavitt finishes her little propaganda session.
Possibility of boots on the ground there?
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country. And with that, I will leave you all, and we will see you later.
We're going to put troops in Venezuela. Great. And that was Caroline Leavitt's little propaganda session today. Wow, that was very disgusting, very despicable. A lot of evil was spewed from Caroline's mouth today. But I want to make sure we take a look at what happened in Boston today. This is something that the mainstream media hasn't really covered yet, but I think this is a big deal. So I don't know if you know who Michelle Wu is. She's the mayor of Boston. I think she's actually one of the best, if not maybe the best mayor that we have. She's a fighter. She's actually standing up for the American people. It's really good to see her response to what happened today. Take a look at this. And I want to set this up again real quick because I want to make sure everybody can see. Okay. So I'm going to make sure this is recording because I'm probably going to post this as a video as well. If you're on TikTok, please, now's your time. Come over to YouTube. You can watch what I'm showing on YouTube. I want to make sure you can see my screen. So come over to YouTube. Link is in the bio. Type in Josh the Progressive. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button. Like this video. And if you could share this video with one friend, that'll really help my channel grow. It'll help me spread the truth about what's happening here in the United States. And you could subscribe. Subscribing is free. It helps the channel. It helps you stay up to date on every video I post. You'll be able to see it on YouTube, and you'll be able to turn on notifications if you want to as well, so you never miss a video. Lastly, I am an independent political commentator. I do this out of passion. I do this because I am trying to stop the far-right movement that is taking hold of our country. So if you want to support me directly, like I said, I'm an independent creator, no sponsors, nothing. You can do so via buymeacoffee.com or Venmo. Both are linked in the description of this YouTube video, as well as if you're on TikTok, you can go to my link tree. Those are linked there as well. $1, $5 on Venmo, buy me a coffee. It helps support my work. It helps, pay for equipment like this nice microphone and the streaming software. And it really means a lot. I try to respond to everybody who sends a small donation. So whatever you are interested in, I appreciate it. But the number one thing you can do to help is share these videos and subscribe. Okay. Here we go. The Trump administration gave Boston Mayor Michelle Wu until today to respond to threats that the Trump administration had sent to the city of Boston. Her response, you're going to want to see this.
Give it up for my friend, Reverend Jeffrey Brown of the historic 12th Baptist Church. Good morning, everyone. Look at our beautiful city and all of our neighbors. Look at our beautiful greater Boston region standing here today.
Let's hear it.
We have a number of speakers today, but I want to recognize so many who are standing here in solidarity, even though we don't have time for everyone to speak. I want to recognize the many, many leaders who have taken time out of their day, serving their communities, to be here and stand not only with the city of Boston, not only with the residents of Boston, but residents of cities across the country who are standing up for who we are and what we are fighting for.
Standing against Trump, by the way.
So I want to name these elected officials by name, so you know who is here. You will hear shortly from Senator Ed Markey.
Awesome. He's a fighter. Wow, record number of people watching, by the way. Thank you for the support.
You will hear shortly from Chairman and State Representative Aaron Michaelwitz, representing the state. You will hear shortly from City Council President Ruthie Louijen. And we're also joined by Boston City Councilors Liz Braden, Enrique Pepin, Henry Santana, Ben Weber, Gabriela Coletta Zapata, Julia Mejia, Brian Worrell, did I miss anyone? Sharon Durkin.
This is what strength looks like.
We are joined by
This is a
Chelsea
real
Town
leader.
Manager Fidel Maltes.
Welcome from TikTok, Shay. Appreciate you for
We are
being here.
joined by Lynn Mayor Jared Nicholson. We thank Melrose Mayor Jennifer Grigoritis, Somerville Mayor Katiana Ballantyne.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Is ready. I said Councilor down in D.C.
Okay, here we
and
go.
I want to emphasize, it's been a little bit of time, but...
Okay, let me set this up again because we have a lot of new viewers who just came from TikTok onto YouTube. So let's make sure everybody knows what this news clip is all about. Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu had until today to respond to Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi. By the way, thank you for the $25 donation. Really appreciate it on Buy Me a Coffee. Who sent that? I want to see who sent that. Someone. It's anonymous. Maybe they wanted to be anonymous. Thank you so much, though, my anonymous supporter. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for the $25 donation on Buy Me a Coffee. Folks, Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu had until today to respond to Pam Bondi, Trump's Attorney General, and her threats against the city and people of Boston. Her response? Well, it's making waves today, but it hasn't been shown on mainstream media. That's why I want to show you what's really going on the streets of Boston. Take a listen to the mayor.
And I want to emphasize, it's been a little bit of time, but when I was down in D.C. saying some similar things, it was our city council, led by Council President Ruti Lujan and Councilor Julia Mejia, who ensured that our residents would gather here today, back then, on this same spot and stand up for our communities as well. So I want to thank them for showing up once again.
Oh, she doesn't play around.
We're here again today because last week, Boston received a letter from the Attorney General of the United States on official letterhead from the federal government threatening to prosecute city officials and withhold federal funds unless we cooperate with carrying out mass deportations.
Boo.
At a time when this federal administration is already causing so much fear and harm in our communities, these threats are serious and consequential. But our same communities have told me loud and clear that silence in the face of oppression is not an option.
People say, where's the resistance? Where's the fight? It might not always happen from Democratic senators, Democratic members of Congress, but Michelle Wu, listen to Boston's mayor, because like I said, she had until today to respond about ICE in Boston, and I don't think she's playing. I don't think this is fun and games anymore. Boston is joining California as part of a broader resistance movement. Texas as well. Let's not forget the Texas Democrat who's being held captive in the state capitol.
The U.S. Attorney General asked for a response by today. So here it is.
Ooh, this should be good.
Here is our response. Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures.
Oh, she did not just go there. She did not just go there.
Unlike the...
Did you hear that, chat? Did everybody hear that? Stop attacking our city to hide your administration's failures. Democrats, you have your marching orders. You have your script right there. Michelle Wu has just handed it to you on a silver platter. The Trump administration is going after American cities and American people as a guise, as a distraction from their pathetic policies that haven't helped shit in America. Why do you think they're doing what they're doing in DC? Is it really about cleaning up crime, or is it trying to create a performance? Look at what happened in Los Angeles. Did they really need to send 4,000 National Guard when they were standing around doing nothing because there was no need for the National Guard to be there? It's all a song and dance because their policies are making life in America more expensive. They're making life in America more dangerous. How can they be against crime when they're literal criminals running our country right now?
Trump administration, Boston follows the law. And Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for.
We will not. Love to Boston.
We will not back away from our community, that has made us the safest major city in the country and a leading example of why cities around the country make this country safer, healthier, and more prosperous for all Americans.
It's funny because far-right extremists like Trump, Mike Johnson, and the rest of the MAGA cult, they always talk about how blue states are so unsafe, when in reality, some red states have double, triple, quadruple the homicide rates as blue states. Like Mike Johnson always talks shit on California, when in reality, he represents an area in Louisiana where murder is insane. It is so much more than California per capita. And he has the audacity to talk about California. Keep California out your fucking mouth, Mike Johnson. And Michelle Wu has a point. Boston is one of, if not the safest major city in the country, maybe even the world. Very blue and very well run. And Michelle Wu is a testament of that.
To all the federal officials attacking communities that embody diversity, creativity, and moral clarity, we mayors said this in DC nearly 6 months ago, and I'll say it again today. You are wrong on the law, and you are wrong on safety. Most of all, you are wrong on cities. The cities that live in your minds are totally foreign to the residents living in our cities.
That's facts. That's facts. And that's a great way of putting it. This administration is so out of touch with the American people. They have no idea what's going on in real cities. They just see something on Fox News that was spun in a way to appease the Trump administration, and they say, look at California, it's out of control. Look at New York, it's out of control. Sure, there's crime in major cities. There's petty crime, there's robbery, etc. There are people being murdered in red states by guns on the regular. And there are real solutions to actually address problems in major cities, like making education more accessible for everybody, making childcare more accessible so people can afford what they need so they don't have to go out and rob somebody, making healthcare more accessible, making groceries more accessible, making public transport more accessible. Boston has some of these things. That's why Boston is a clean, safe city. Things are going well in Boston. Let Boston be an example for how to run the country.
And we are picking up the pieces of your failures to deliver on your promises. Under the Trump administration, groceries are less affordable. Housing is harder to build. Cures for cancer are farther away. And good news on our economy has been as hard to find as the Epstein list.
Damn. I knew she was going to have a response. I didn't realize she was going to go scorched earth on the Trump administration. Where did Michelle Wu come from? I'm not an expert on Boston politics. And unfortunately, outside of Zohran Mamdani, city mayors don't get as much national attention. But Michelle Wu has started to. I think everybody should pay attention to what she's doing because she does have a nice framework for what Democrats should be saying. Good news about the economy has been about as hard to find as the Epstein files. Great point. Ooh, people like that. Even sign language speaker loves it.
But as always, cities are doing everything we can to protect our residents and keep moving forward. While you are cutting health care and food assistance for our families, Boston has launched new coalitions to connect residents to fresh food, stable housing, and job training to build healthy, long lives. While you attempt to unlawfully cancel grants for our schools and roads, we funded 10,000 paid summer jobs for our young people, opened 1,000 new seats in free, high-quality early education classrooms for our littlest learners, fixed more than 27...
Early education, a concept foreign to MAGA extremists because even the word education is hard for them to spell. It's unfortunate but true.
1,000 potholes and repaved more than 80 miles of city streets.
This is America. This is America. I want an America like what Michelle Wu is describing, an America where education is a priority, safety is a priority. I want a real America. And what Donald Trump is doing is a fascist administration. They are acting as an authoritarian state. And it's all a cover-up for the Epstein files. It's all a cover-up for their failure in administrating actual policy that benefits working class Americans. Where's Donald Trump's healthcare plan? Where's Donald Trump's housing plan? Does Donald Trump have a plan to address housing insecurity in this country? How are young people going to afford a home? They're not. They're not under this administration. There's no plan. They say, oh, well, if we make your enemy illegal aliens, as they call them, if we put all of our money and resources into kicking out all of these hardworking, undocumented migrants, then suddenly houses are going to be free because they're not going to be taking your houses anymore, and jobs are going to be free because you can go work on the farm that we kicked everybody off of, or you can go work at the Home Depot. That's why Michelle Wu has a great point. Trump and these far-right extremists have no idea what's actually happening in American cities. They are so out of touch with reality. They are so out of touch with the American voter. That's why they're doing everything they can to rig and cheat elections moving forward, like what they're trying to pull in Texas, because they don't have an idea as to what policies actually benefit Americans. They have to cheat to click on to power.
While you're slashing funding for...
Or they do have an idea what helps Americans, but they won't ever do it because they're only trying to benefit the top 1% billionaire class.
Our universities, hospitals, and research institutions. Boston is building pathways to community college and UMass Boston, joining with industry to train hundreds of residents for careers in life sciences and clean energy, and partnering with our city's largest employers to double the size of our health careers high school. While you deploy military personnel to occupy American streets, we are building community safety. Our police
Real safety.
Don't have to hide their faces.
Facts. Accurate truth from Michelle Wu.
Boston police do not hide their faces because they are members of our community.
True.
Our officers keep us safe by getting to know our residents, not working to remove them. Back in June, the city of Boston filed a Freedom of Information request with ICE.
I used to have a grudge against Boston because I love the Lakers, and, you know, as Lakers fans, we say fuck Boston. But Boston is quickly becoming one of my favorite cities in the United States. And I would love to visit. If anybody in the chat is from Boston, let me know what it's really like there, because it looks beautiful. I hear it's awesome. Yeah, some people are probably tough. Some people probably have an attitude there. But I like that because that's America. That's America. So I would love to visit. Yeah, send any recommendations for Boston if you have them, because Boston is a beacon of light for this country.
Demanding the bare minimum of transparency from our federal government. ICE talked a big game, promised that they would get us information, and it's been 2 months without any answers. So today, we will file a formal appeal, insisting that ICE produce the public records we asked for, and we're prepared to take additional legal steps if they continue to refuse transparency.
Good. You hear that? Boston, they're filing a formal appeal to stop ICE from terrorizing their communities. And this is what every mayor should be doing instead of rolling over. Because so many Democrats seem to think that if you make a deal with Republicans in the future, they'll be able to make a deal in return. Or we have to abide by decorum and precedent, because if we don't play by the rules, then Republicans are going to do radical stuff. Well, they're doing it already. They're doing it already. This is the same thing that happened when Obama tried to appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court, and Republicans said, no, you can't do it. It's an election year. You can't do it. And then Trump got to appoint everybody he wanted, even in an election year. They say the Democrats can't do something. They turn around. They do the exact thing that they say not to do. So for the first time ever, it's great to see Democrats like Gavin Newsom, Michelle Wu actually have some toughness and push back.
Over the last several months, we've watched Donald Trump send the National Guard into LA and DC to stoke fear and disorder. Boston stands with these cities as they sue over his abuse of power. We have reviewed those cases, and we are prepared to stand up for our city's rights if we need to. Your attacks all come back to a common aim. The Trump administration seeks to divide, isolate, and intimidate cities.
True.
And make Americans fearful of one another. But Boston is proof of something far more powerful than lies.
What's going to happen when Trump kicks out every single undocumented migrant? So many people's lives are destroyed. Our economy is completely disrupted because millions of farm workers, construction workers, hotel staff, etc. And these aren't the only jobs that these people are doing, but it is a large population of people that will ultimately disrupt our economy. What's going to happen when all these people are kicked out and groceries still aren't affordable and housing's still not affordable and you still can't get health care? Who are they going to blame next? Who are they going to blame next? Once they've kicked everybody out, they've ruined everything, and they have no more enemy to point to. Well, maybe they'll just find a new enemy. Maybe they'll come for you next. The radical left lunatics, aka the enemy within. That's what they call us. They say we're an enemy. They say Democrats are the enemy of the people. It's very interesting rhetoric from people who are supposed to be our fellow Americans.
And intimidation. That safety and community come from loving your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
Attorney General Bondi, we are gathered here today to show you who we are in Boston. More than 100 years before your home state was founded, Bostonians were across the street in Faneuil Hall setting the foundation for our democracy and rule of law.
Facts. Pam Bondi's a traitor to America. It's just a fact.
100 years before that, Bostonians were founding the first public school and public park in the country. This has always been a city of revolution, of innovation, of standing up for the public good, and never bowing down to tyranny.
That's right.
With me today, our fellow public servants and veterans, public safety and faith leaders, civil rights advocates, and labor union members.
All people that Pam Bondi never associates with, doesn't even know their names, doesn't even know what real Americans are going through, what real Americans do for a daily.
Teachers and business owners, entrepreneurs and artists, youth and seniors. This is our city. This is our country. And I'm so proud and grateful to show the world who our community is here in Boston and what we're made of.
Show us.
Cities aren't a threat to America. They fuel the American dream. They
fuel
bring
the
us
economy.
together. Great cities make our country great. Boston will never back down from being a beacon of freedom and a home for everyone.
That's what I said. They're a beacon. They're a beacon.
Otra vez un poco en español para nuestros vecinos latinos.
Wow, I did not know she was fluent in Spanish. I'm going to wrap it there because we heard it and I think most of my audience speaks English. But if you are Spanish speaking and you want to hear her speak in Spanish, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Folks, that concludes our show for today. Thank you so much for being here. Apologies again for the technical difficulties at the top of the show. Hey, if you're watching on TikTok right now, I'm about to turn off the live, but if you want to watch more of these, I'm live every week on YouTube. You search Josh the Progressive. I have a YouTube show. It's called The Progressive Pulse. As you can see, you will actually be able to see my screen. So that's really great. Come do that. Like I said, Josh the Progressive on YouTube. You can also go to the link tree in my bio, and you can find it there. You can click on it. You can do this on your phone, your computer, You can even watch on your TV as well, which is fun to do sometimes. Let's say you're eating dinner, etc. You can put me on. It's a great way to get the news and also hear the truth and read between the lines. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And by the way, if you want to support me directly, we already had a great $25 donation on Buy Me a Coffee. That's also linked in my bio. And if you're on YouTube, you just can go to the description of the video and you'll see all my links. You'll see my socials, you'll see my Venmo and my Buy Me a Coffee. I'm an independent political commentator. And I'm doing this because this is a necessity to push back against the lies and the fake news coming out of the Trump administration. So if you want to support my work directly, I have no sponsors, nobody's paying me for this. You can do so with a contribution, $1, 50 cents, $10, whatever you are comfortable. But if that's not your thing, totally understandable. You should just share these videos. You can share this with a friend, subscribe for free, like the videos, everything like that. Sharing a video, liking a video, it helps amplify my videos. It helps get the word out. It helps me share the truth. And it helps you pass this along to a friend who you can talk to these videos about too. So thank you so much for just simply sharing the videos, watching the videos, and for being here today. I really appreciate it. I know these are tough times, but stay vigilant, stay well, and fight the fascist Trump regime. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today, and we will see you on the next edition of the Progressive Pulse.